How does one overcome burnout?
Or really intense art block?
That has been a question I have been getting for years, and while I've tried to answer in the past to the best of my ability, I don't think I could answer then quite as with solid advice as I can now. And that's because I am only very recently, and kind of still, overcoming the biggest art block I have ever experienced in my life thus far. Back when I was at the height of my YouTube channel, like 6 years ago, before my art block, things were going great. You know, I was drawing at my own pace, I was posting regularly on YouTube, I was storyboarding and animating, which was totally new of a mediums for me to explore. I was killing it at conventions, things were going great. Love those times, good times. It wasn't until I started taking on freelance work that things started to crumble, which, no beef with the creators, by the way. I've been off their projects for years, and I enjoyed the projects when I was on them. It's just that I bit off more than I could chew. And once you start freelance works, that's a commitment. So I couldn't quit in the middle of it. So as a result of me biting off way too much, my YouTube started to fall apart. I was so swamped with work that I could not upload on a regular basis, and I didn't have time to work on YouTube videos or my own projects. It's why Megalovania was put on the back burner and was never finished. The quality of my videos went down because I was scrapping up anything to find an upload for that week. That made me unhappy with my art, and art became a job instead of a passion that I was following that was working so well before. I kept trying to upload and upload, and I just kept falling behind more and more, and I think that was because I was in denial that I was already in the heat of being completely burned out. And that's the first step, is recognizing you're burned out. So I realized this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to come back. So I would take a break, and then I would try to come back, and then I would fail again. And then I would be like, okay, I need another break. And then I'd try to come back, and I would fail again, on repeat. It got to a point where I just didn't like painting anymore. I lost sight of everything. I lost the enjoyment of it. Nothing was working. And instead of just not getting any ideas or having a hard time finding inspiration or motivation, this was rooted way deeper. I came to realize this wasn't just like a normal, typical art block. This was a severe burnout, which was linked to my depression. Simply taking a break wasn't working because I realize now I was taking a break wrong. Every time I would take a break, I wasn't really taking a break because I was stressed about taking a break. Every time I would take a break, I felt guilty. I felt like I was letting you guys down. I felt guilty for not being productive, especially the fact that art was my career now. It was my financial stability. I can't be doing this other thing. I need to be drawing. What am I doing? It's been weeks. It's been months. It's been years. Why haven't you gotten over this art block yet? Why can't you find motivation? Why don't you want to draw anymore? How dare you? You're wasting time. You should be figuring out how to fix this. That is not taking a break. That is sitting in stress, which depletes your battery. How can I be expected to take a break if I am constantly thinking about how to overcome my art block? Isn't that strange? Why do we do that to ourselves? Is anyone else like that? That's how I was. And I realized that if I'm thinking about how am I going to get over this art block, what can I do to get over it, well, that's tackling the issue. That's not taking a break, you know? And by approaching rest in the wrong way like this, it kept me in the burnout. Realizing that I was never taking a break to begin with or recharging, what I had to do to actually rest and take a break was to do something that is kind of a hard pill to swallow. It sounds ass backwards, but trust me on this. And what I had to do to really rest and take a break was drop art completely. With absolutely no expectation to come back. Why? Because if I set a due date for I'm gonna take a break for 2 months and then come back in 2 months. Well, you're setting an expectation. You're creating a pressure that you are upholding over your own head, which is going to make you stressed once those 2 months are up. I was like, I'm not gonna think about art. I'm not gonna touch art, anything, nothing. I was a little worried in the beginning. I'm like, oh, well, what if I never pick it back up again? And the answer to that is, that's okay. Because it's a lot better to drop something and move on and find new loves and passions and hobbies and career paths than sticking with something that you eventually will hate. Because that's toxic. And you don't want to have a toxic relationship with what was once your passion. So yeah, I dropped art completely. And for a long time. I was gone for years. And my YouTube shows that. So that was the next step, and the hardest step to realize. How to take a real break. And what did I do in those years, once I finally made this realization to drop art, was I lived life. Focus on relationships, your family, your friends. I met my partner, who I love so much. Just feel free to veg out and exist, and that's okay. You don't have to be this superstar all the time or ever. You can just be and learn to know that's enough. And right into the next step, you find new hobbies, new passions. You explore new avenues to express your creativity because we're creatives. We gotta get it out somehow. But we need something new, something refreshing, something that is a break from the monotony of your past. I found a passion through cooking. And through it, I've gotten pretty good, and I'm really proud of my cooking. And in that vein, I found a consumption of media that is new. I have new role models on YouTube that I absolutely love and have learned so much from. And I started hiking, getting out in nature. And my God, the stuff I have been missing out on growing up in Arizona is wild. Oh my goodness. It is absolutely beautiful here, and I go hiking every now and then now, and it's great. For 2 years, I tried esports, and I was good, okay? Probably one of the best and coolest parts of my life was playing DBFZ in Season 2, the peak of the game, competitively. Me and my brother Talon, we were like training partners, and we would go to locals, and I met Wrath FGC, and I went to EVO. I met my good friend Nate. I got to fight Zombie Moo, who's literally like a sponsored player by Hitbox at the time. I took a game. He won the set. I took a game! I got 257th place. I got the best score that you could possibly get drowning in pools out of 1,200 people. I'm pretty proud of that number. And I didn't even give a shit. Why? Because I watched my brother crawl all the way up to 49th place, and it was the hypest shit ever. I was there to watch Sonic Fox and Goichi fight in grand finals. I never would have experienced that if I didn't take a break from art. I never would have had the time to put into competitive esports. And it was great. It's amazing what you can find passions for once you deviate, I'm just saying. In a really weird, ironic way, dropping art did a lot for me. And the best part about it is that I could come back to it at any time. Hello. I forgot to mention something really important. So in this step, another really vital part is mental health. If you're in a burnout state that's so much that you hate what normally you're passionate about, there's a really good chance that what is contributing to why you can't enjoy what you love anymore is outside factors, mental health, could be a toxic relationship, it could be a bad job, could be a variety of things. This is totally dependent from person to person. You might also need to look inward. You're human, you have flaws. You might have some traits you need to work on to get to a better mental place. I did with me. That has helped tremendously. If you're in a bad state of mind, so like check your surroundings, whether that's like your home environment, your work, maybe your school, relationships, if you are even in the position of fixing anything, which I know not everybody's situation will be, that's a huge help. And if you're not, just focus on looking inward, yourself and your own mental health. Maybe consider therapy if you're not already in it, etc. That was a huge important thing that I needed. I couldn't even begin to enjoy or tackle getting back into art until I started working on my mental health and checking if my relationships were actually like lifting me up and not holding me back, etc. This leads me to the next step, which is consume new types of media to find new inspiration. If you're anything like me, you might find yourself kind of replaying the same game or watching the same show or same type of genre of show or something, whatever, over and over and over again, just kind of sticking to it because it's like, oh, that's what I like, blah, blah, blah. But like, I noticed, I think that was kind of a cycle of the depression that I was in. It was a comfort zone. And by consuming the same types of media and not really branching out anywhere, I mean, of course I'm not gonna have any new ideas. Of course I'm not gonna find any motivation because it's gotten stale, even if I still like it. It's not jogging the creative juices by catching me off guard and being, ooh, that's so cool. You know, I'm not getting that. I started playing indie games recently. Me and my girlfriend, we started going to GameStop and just getting a random game that I have never heard of before. We find some really bad games and we find some really good games. And it's making me enjoy video games again, which in terms is giving me ideas to want to draw things I've never seen before, which is refreshing. It's inspiring. It's how I found FromSoft games, which, of course, sparked a whole new genre of gaming that I absolutely am obsessed with, which then extended to the first spark of inspiration I've had in a very long time, and that's why I drew Melania and Ronnie. If you have a backlog of video games or shows or whatever it is that you like to do, and you haven't gotten to it yet, you're like, oh, I've always had that game on my list, and I'll get to it eventually, but it's been like months or years, and you've still never gotten to it, and so your list just keeps piling. I know you're out there, you know who you are. Play those games! Stop going back to the same thing. Stop playing Destiny 2. Stop playing Call of Duty. Stop playing Minecraft. Whatever it is that you keep going back to, because it's a never-ending game. I mean, keep playing it, but my point is, play those games that break out of those comfort zones and play something new or watch something new, whatever your thing is. You know, it doesn't have to be video games, whatever your thing is. Exposing yourself to new things incites inspiration, which of course helps creativity. And that's what I'm finding. So give it a shot. The next step is once you have taken a break, and that can be anytime. We all go at our own pace, whether that's weeks, whether that's months, whether that's years like me. It took me like 4 to 5 years. Getting back into art, if you feel like you're ready or you want to again, can be really scary. I felt very hesitant. And I think this art depression was so bad, it almost gave me a small amount of like self-inflicted trauma because I put my expectation, my bar of pressure so high on myself that just drawing almost like it gave me anxiety. Sometimes I'd get overwhelmed. Oh, this is going to be such a big project. Oh, I don't want to do that. That's so draining. Like I'm associating art with draining, and that's bad. And so finding enjoyment with art was really difficult. Okay, now that you've had your break and you're wanting to get back into it, but you're finding these internal anxieties, these hesitances of going back, almost like putting shackles on after you've been free. That's scary. The answer to this step is start small and take your time with it. I was in this stage for like 8 months. And come from an angle where you're not going back doing the same thing that you were. Start new. For me, so typically I'm a cartoonist, and that will never go away, don't get me wrong. But with my latest pieces, because I got inspiration from the new media, consuming from the previous step, Elden Ring, I tried semi-realism. It was nice, it was a breath of fresh air. But the most important part was, when I started Melania, I wasn't going in with the idea of having an illustration. She started out as a doodle. That's what you should be doing for a while. Just doodle, just have fun. The whole time I was fighting that anxiety of, oh, it's not gonna be a good composition. Oh, it's not gonna be good this, blah, 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 blah. And I had to stop myself multiple times and say, just have fun. Just have fun. Doesn't matter. You don't have to make it a whole thing. That's okay. But also, if you feel like coloring it, just color it. Just let it create itself. That's the beauty of art that I lost, was just enjoying the process. Many times, I just had to remind myself, it's okay. Don't overthink it. Just have fun. After the break and reminding myself to have fun and just letting myself just let the flow happen, I think it turned out to be one of my best pieces, and I'm so proud of it. And it led to the inspiration of Ronnie. If that's too hard to jump into, I do have some suggestions to help enjoy art again before that, which is try art challenges. I started doing these 10-minute sketch challenges from memory, and I wasn't allowed to know the character until I started right at the very beginning, so I didn't have time to think. There was no expectation of perfection because it's from memory. I don't know what the heck the character might look like. I kind of remember, but there's a lot of flaws to it. Because I set a timer for 10 minutes, I just rushed it down. I wasn't fixated on any details or getting it right, or if the character looks good or whatever. It removed by force all of those expectations, all of those pressures of making a product, because this is my career. And it was really fun. And it was a good creativity challenge because I had to come up with it on the spot. I didn't have time to worry about problems. It was great. Another thing is art games. If you want to make Poke Fusions, or you want to try out different styles, that's a great idea. And if you could do art challenges or art games with friends, even better, because when you have a support system to do it along with you, that's going to help warm you up getting into it more. Another idea is if you are struggling to figure out what the hell to draw, if you have no ideas and no motivation, something that helped me, and will be a future video, is one of the art challenges is redraw one of your old drawings. You don't have to come up with an idea. The idea is right there for you. Just redraw it and see how much you've improved. See how much your break has refreshed you coming back to it. And you'll be impressed. Another idea is try a new medium. If you've been doing digital painting a decade, maybe pick up graphite or charcoal. Try traditional acrylic painting or oil painting. Maybe try sculpting, but yeah, I've been doing graphite lately, and that was really nice to kind of break through the nuance and kind of feel refreshed too, coming back to art. And once you're enjoying art again, the next step that I took.
Don't you ever draw with an arm or a leg. Ever. Why? Don't ever? You really? Wow. I'm gonna keep it slow so you can follow along. We're here to learn. We're here to learn fast. If you try to keep up, I'm not gonna be holding your little baby. Oh, well, you already know everything about art and all the tips and tricks on YouTube. Let me tell you something that you didn't know. Get learned. Okay.
I am a student again, and I'm always a student. Doesn't matter how good you get at something, you're always learning. You're still making flaws, and you will always make flaws because you're human, and that's okay. You can still love your work and enjoy and embrace it and be proud of what you do, even if there's flaws. There's flaws in my Ronnie piece, but I love those and I'm really proud of them. I went back into the mindset that I was a student again, and I started brushing up on anatomy. I started doing gesture drawings, and every day I sketched for 2 weeks solid. I refreshed my memory on a lot of things I was rusty about. It helped me a lot, and it relaxed the expectation because I'm learning. I'm a student. It's okay. Another thing, make sure you take a break right. Just like what I said earlier in the video, where I had to drop art in order to truly take a break. At this step, don't just drop art every time you do it. I mean, you can. That's up to you if you want. For me, what I do now is I set boundaries, almost like work days, but for projects that are a lot. For example, if I'm working on a project and I don't get it done by this weekend, and say I have plans, naturally I'm gonna wanna feel guilt for not working on that project, but instead decide beforehand when are break days. The weekends are my break days. Saturday and Sunday are break days. So if I ever get that guilt of why
aren't you working? Why aren't you being productive? Blah, 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 blah. Why aren't you drawing? Didn't you fix this art break?
Instead of doing that, just be relax, anxiety. I already made the decision that this weekend is a break. So I don't have to worry about art. I don't have to feel guilty about it because that's Monday's problem. Today is relax, not thinking about it, not relevant, doesn't matter. So being able to make an executive mental decision to this is my break time. I don't need to feel guilty because I've already decided this is my break. Really helps. So to kind of sum up this huge step, so doodle and sketch, you know, just focus on having fun. Try art games, try art challenges, try a new medium, or maybe revisiting an old medium you haven't done in a while. Redraw your old work and see how much you've improved just by the refresh of the break. And studying up on art fundamentals, whether that's a refresher on something you've studied in the past, or perhaps a fundamental you haven't studied yet. All of these have been really helping me get back into art. And heck, depending on what kind of art block you have, whether that's like a standard art block or an art depression, if it's a standard art block, you might just be able to just skip to this step. Forget everything else that I said. That's more for the severe. Little by little, having all these little self-discoveries from the next step to the next step to the next step, I have been finding that I have actually been able to take the beginning steps to removing myself from this art depression, art block thing. And I'm sure I'll be battling it for a while. But all of these steps have been working. And everything else I was trying before all of this wasn't. So I'm just thinking, if all of these steps have helped me, especially because they were so complicated that it took me years to figure out, I feel the need to express this because I know I'm not the only one going through not just a art block, but like an art depression. And if it can help me, I'm hoping it can help other people. I hope this helps, and I hope this makes sense. A lot of it is self-discovery, so look inward too, you know? I had to look inward for a lot of this stuff, especially the art break thing, which did the most good out of all of these steps, ironically. Thank you, C. Miller. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. It's really your comment that inspired me to talk about this, so thank you. And thank you everybody else who watches this. I know I've been gone for a really long time after all. It really means a lot that I haven't been completely forgotten about. So, thank you. It's great to be back. For real this time.